April, your host of Teachable Moments with April podcast. If you're a new listener, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. Remember, teachable moments are all around us. Happy listening. Good morning, Miss Mary.
Good morning, April. How are you?
I'm good. So, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about today. Miss Mary, what should we talk? Should we talk about the food pantry subject, or should we talk about the grocery store / Save-A-Lot?
It doesn't matter with me. I'm very easy.
Okay, so first we're going to talk about the food pantry, and then we're going to talk about at the second half of this podcast, its episode, about the Save-A-Lot and grocery stores in regards to the food deserts here in the Midwest. So I would like to ask Miss Mary to explain about the food pantry in regards to my stepfather explaining something to you about the food pantry.
Okay. I live in a predominantly, now, it was basically a black area for years. There's quite a few homeowners. It's not a lot of, we only have a few apartment buildings, like 2 flats, but it's mostly family homes. And it was predominantly black, and now it's black and brown. I would say it's equal now, 50-50. Being that I'm retired, there's certain services that is available to senior citizens, which I thought was great. So I checked into the food pantries that would offer food for you to supplement your food in your home. I was speaking with my ex-husband one day, and I was telling him about my neighbor would give me some of the food that he would receive from the food pantry that he wasn't able to utilize. I don't know why. Maybe he didn't have enough freezing. I'm sorry. So what have you. I don't know the reason why. He just took it upon himself to start calling me and telling me he had certain items that I'd like some, and so forth and so on. But the food items that he had consisted of, to me, rotted fruit. The meat looked, you better not take a chance on eating it, and if it was edible, it would be mostly like pork tenderloins and things like that. Being that I try and watch my diet because of medical reasons and so forth, I'm not too fond of that much pork in one place. Of course, I eat bacon occasionally, and even pork chops every now and then. But I did not understand why he had just these items, bread, fruit, and I'm going to be very negative, and rotted meat. Okay. So one day my ex-husband and I was talking. He was talking about how many canned items that he had gotten for the food pantry. And I asked him, I said, they give canned food out at food pantries? He said, yeah, I go to the one on Ohio Street. I said, oh, I think I know what you want. That's the one that have a line outside all the way around the block. And I said, well, I would not be able to stand out there in that line for those many hours to get some food or something. I said, because it's very degrading standing on the outside. Plus, I don't think having musculoskeletal disease, I don't think I could stand on my veins that long to get some food or be able to get it back to the car or whatever. So he was saying all the variety of items they had there once you gotten in line. To me, he was expressing to me it would be worth the wait. So the gentleman, my neighbor, I was talking to him one day, and I mentioned to him, I said, my ex-husband says that he get canned goods and he don't need any more now because he doesn't cook that often, being just single. And he said, well, at the place that I go, they have all kind of canned products in there. I said, well, why don't you ever get any? He said, well, they only give you the item that is perishable, and the rest of it they leave it there. So I decided, from some type of paperwork I've gotten over the time that I've been retired, had different services for senior citizens. So I got to the part, I looked it up and I found it, and it had about food pantries. And the little suburban area that is next to my area, I called the number on there, and I had to enter my zip code. Mm-hmm. And they told me in no uncertain terms, if you're in this zip code, you are not eligible for any food from the pantry.
Okay, so I'm listening to Miss Mary now talk about this. So I'm going to point out something that we both know, me and Miss Mary, and probably whoever may be listening, is that I was brought to my attention that during a certain period of time, the government was giving out like additional SNAP benefits, and that the benefits were supposed to end in May. But something occurred and they ended it early, which was at the end of March. Was it at the end of March?
Yes.
So they anticipated at some point, they voiced this, forecast of sorts or whatever prediction that they would see an increase due to this. It will be an increase in activities and, people going to food pantries. So I'm trying to connect the dots here. So me and Miss Mary cannot guess what other people are thinking, what are in their hearts, and what their intentions are. But I find it interesting that once they did that, they didn't wait until it actually was slated for May, giving people more time. Something occurred or happened and they cut it off before the time, abruptly. Now this is going to shed light. So this also ties in with God's plan when the scripture, I'm not good at remembering scriptures or whatnot like Miss Mary, but no stone will be unturned, okay, in which he's shedding light on things that may not have been brought to light before. So in this regard, when it has to do with food, so in certain areas, the food pantries, it just seems to me, and Miss Mary can let me know if she agrees, based on the information that she gave, that certain food pantries are different. They're not the same, okay?
No.
And what they offer. So in the black and brown neighborhoods or areas, we're finding that what they offer is not the same as in other neighborhoods that is highly concentrated. And the produce, the meat, and everything is rotten. It's basically rotten, okay? Yes. Not just a little expired. Now, I even noticed when the individual at question was gracious enough to share the food items with us, you could find a lot. They were still good in such plenty, so much so. And so much so that they were still good. and that we even reached out to people in our neighborhood and where I used to work. I even offered it to the actual small agency that works with people who are special needs adults, the community adult program, to benefit the clients as well as the staff. So anyway, it was still good. It just seemed like a waste, like you wanted to share that with people, you know. Now we started to see of our own accord, seeing that a lot of the produce and the meat had already turned and had started to, but they're still doing it. Okay, so now the tie-in here is that recently a sore spot for me, and I talked about that, me and Miss Mary, about a local alderman. A runoff happened in regards to the and he wanted to be reelected. I didn't know if it was just me, the way I felt about it, and my obsession with the neighborhood that I live in becoming a food desert. And I just couldn't understand why, when I went to him via email and I asked the question of maybe him looking into getting some other store to reopen, because so many people, it's just so convenient, and there are a lot of older people that live here, and it's just good to have something that you can literally walk to.
Exactly.
And his extreme reaction, he seemed very angry that I even asked him. He told me to ask someone else that was not part of his actual ward, okay, which I found odd. I did contact, actually, Miss Mary contacted her,
of course,
and to find out what the thing, and she didn't know or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to try to work through this. Just be patient. Okay, so I keep revisiting this because it's just something that's just my person, and it just upsets me, because I kept thinking, why is this person supposed to be a representative of the people in his ward? This neighborhood is just not listening. So there was a runoff. Okay, and I still keep checking. I haven't checked today, but it was against him and another individual who actually lives in this neighborhood, not that far from here. Exactly. He lives here. So on his website, he had said some things about the guy, not just rumors, but facts. And then the whole Save-A-Lot thing. Okay, so it's just burning in me. It's just, I can't get it out of my head. So I went again to Miss Mary yesterday about it. And what do you know? I happened to look on YouTube. So, and on YouTube, they showed people from the Inglewood area. Mm-hmm. And they were outside of a grocery store. And guess what grocery store it was? Save-A-Lot. Okay, Save-A-Lot. So evidently, Yellow Banana, that I never heard of before, is they say a black-owned company, and they applied through the city. There's programs in the city, I had no clue, for divested areas to reopen, specifically Save-A-Lots. Do you know how much money they got? $13.5 million in grants to reopen. Now, the thing with this is, when they reopened it, there were some issues with the produce. Were they fresh or were they rotten?
They were rotten.
Rotten. Okay, so you see a pattern here. So we have food pantries that they are increasingly offering only certain items, and they are rotten. Okay. In our areas, black and brown. Then they want to reopen, which is fine. I love the idea that they did that. But then they noticed that it was not so fresh. They said fresh produce.
And then it should be fresh.
But it ain't fresh.
No.
Okay, so this is the next thing. Okay, so then they protested outside of that particular Save-A-Lot. And here's the great thing that our alderman hasn't done. That lady's name is Stephanie D. Coleman of the 16th Ward. She was out there with the people that she represents through her ward. and fought and protested, not exactly fought, but protested and stood behind the people that she represents. And you know what happened? They closed it. They closed it and they set up a meeting right there. A time to meet, to hear the opinions of the people of that particular ward. So what happened with our alderman? What happened, Miss Mary?
He's not visible. He only shows up in the area at one of our neighbors' houses on birthdays when they're giving birthday parties and all the noises down the block, which he should not be a part of. Loud music is not a good thing for a neighborhood. There's quite a few of us are senior citizens. We really don't want to spend the day at a birthday party where all this noise is blasting down the street. He shows up for drinks and food. Anything else, we do not see him. There's no improvement. There is nothing that we even know. I had called there on a couple occasions about certain issues I was having. And the first person I talked to gave me a positive answer. At least they weren't rude. But then I turned around and called back as a follow-up call. And I was literally yelled at and told me, there's 2 Chris's work here. I said, okay, you have a good day then.
Okay, so this is the office.
Yeah, his office.
Of Chris Taliaferro.
Right.
But there happens to be 2 Chris's that work there.
That's what he told me, because I talked to someone and they were going to do a follow-up. They said they were going to check into it for me. And it was the person I talked to was pretty polite to me, I have to admit. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't hear from them anymore, so I took it on myself to call back to the office, which I haven't called again. And the person that answered the phone, I asked to speak to Chris. They identified themselves as Chris. And I said, well, I called him back on the issue that I had. And they listened to me, didn't cut in or nothing, just totally quiet. And when I finished talking, they yelled in the phone, there's 2 Chris's work here. And I knew I wouldn't get no results, so I was pretty hurt. So I just hung up the phone.
Okay, so in all fairness, okay, it's 2 Chris's. But to me, what it sounds like to me is that there might be 2 Chris's, but I think it's the original Chris.
I do too.
Chris Taliaferro. Do you see a pattern here?
Mm-hmm.
When I tried to contact him and ask a question, did he know anything about another store? Not necessarily a Save-A-Lot, but another store being up there. Because ever since we've been in this neighborhood, more or less, there has been some type of store at that particular site. Some stores, I do vaguely remember a video store, but it was short-lived. It was short-lived. We've had Pete's Produce. We've had other stuff up there. It's always been something up there. This neighborhood needs it. It's not a want. It's a need. And he reacted with such ferocity. So then when Miss Mary actually called in after that first initial pleasant conversation, I'm going to be bold and say, I think it was him. So why is he so mad? Okay, so this is what this gentleman does. There is a property that used to be by Sears. And if I don't know who remembers Sears or whatever, it closed at some point. It had been up there, it seemed like forever.
Eons.
He showed an interest in that particular area, and I would see it featured in a public newsletter.
Me too.
Okay. At some point, what I find interesting is that people who had subscribed to this particular newsletter were no longer getting the newsletter. No. I guess at some point. I just assumed people were. In the newsletter, it was saturated with him and this particular area, this particular site, and doing something with that site. And that's fine and good. But it's not in this area. and it became like the one all and be all. Now I know a lot of times people, when you're passionate about something, you want to talk about it, you want to show it, you want to share it. But then that seemed like that's when I noticed, and it probably was before then, but I did notice it, is that his attention was no longer in this area anymore.
It really?
It was up there in the area that no one from this ward, this area, it's not part of his area. And then I guess at some point this year, recently, they finally announced that particular area, that particular real estate right there, was taken over by a large entity in healthcare. And it was in the newsletter. And then I shared it with Miss Mary. Now, before this happened was the fact that we started to actually see him a lot in this, like we could literally look out our window and we would see him. He started to like send back to back all of these what do you call them, cards with his picture on it, real nice, and then all of his accolades and all of his achievements and all of this. And I kept saying, it was like 3, 4, 5 a day, if not every other day. Now I realized this is when it turns into election time for him.
Exactly.
But I had just sent him another email, and maybe I shouldn't, but I did it, and I'm not ashamed of it, letting him know. I said, nothing has been done about this.
No.
If you know someone else that's going to actually help the people of this ward, can you pass this along to them? Now, I wasn't exactly nice. I wasn't.
He wasn't either.
And so I heard nothing from him. He didn't respond. Not that I expected him to or I needed him. I need results. But then all of these cards kept coming in the mail. But then the weird thing was that I started to realize, and Miss Mary pointed this out, is that he was personally driving in his beautiful SUV and hand delivering them in our mailbox. I don't need you to hand deliver any of that. I need results. This community needs results. I don't need to be reminded of all your achievements, because what it means to me, zero. Because what we need in this neighborhood, you're not listening. You want us to, you're pandering to your ego and your achievements. But if you're not doing anything for the people that you represent, what that means nothing to me.
He doesn't represent us. He only come on in this neighborhood, like I say,
for party time,
for festivities that's happening with the one or two families that I guess he associate with, and I guess they overlook that he's not doing anything, or he make them promise what he's gonna do according to one neighbor, but he never does anything. The rest of us, we don't get nothing done around here. Nothing whatsoever.
Okay, so maybe I'm wrong to do this, but I'm just so heated over this. And then what I told Miss Mary is that once this, I just think it's more than a, Miss Mary always says there is no coincidences.
No,
I just think it's funny that I got flared up over it again, only to look on YouTube, and then this Inglewood opens up the whole thing, and it has to do with the Save-A-Lot. There is, so I looked online, I just couldn't leave it alone. The city of Chicago has grants, city grants. This is the second round that they are giving, and initiatives in the millions of dollars. He would not have to give up any money. This lady, that's for the 16th ward, she was there representing the people. And then I had to sleep on it, and I realized that this man, what he did was he helped this entity that is huge, healthcare, I'm not against healthcare, entity to secure this spot. My hands are shaking. But he would not raise a finger to help the people when he's up in their homes drinking their liquor and eating up their food and walking like he's royalty at the block party, and everybody's kissing his dupa, but he won't do that, and everybody wake up.
Yeah.
I'm livid. I'm just livid. And he would know about, because I kept thinking, I told Miss Mary, I said, They have this thing on Save-A-Lot, and they are pushing. She said they always have, and I didn't know that. But even more so, they are pushing for people to come forward and own these Save-A-Lots. Why can't the people of this neighborhood to stand up, step up, and take back their neighborhood, and they could own it and become partners? I am very limited in my knowledge of these things, but then I learned that this city has millions of dollars just sitting there. They even have a program called Invest South and West Side Initiatives. Millions of dollars. And then said the first round of city grants were awarded, supported 26 projects with $33.5 million. So he knew, and he still did nothing. Now, I don't want to put it all on him because the system is broke. But there is money there. There is money there, and he did not represent us there. But he'll sit up there and eat everybody's food up.
Well, just think about it like this, though.
That's wrong. That's
It's
unacceptable.
all the way wrong about what he did. And what he didn't do. And he's feeding off the fact that no one is standing up for him. And I can't believe the last time, I believe April checked with the runoff between him and CV, he had 51% of the vote.
How is
Now,
that
how is
possible?
that possible for him to get 51% of the vote? And this is
voting for
not
him?
his first term.
No, this is third. It would be his third
Right.
term, they said.
But he tried on the second or the first term, after the first term, he tried to become a judge. And
Yes,
that
circuit
didn't work.
court.
And he went right back to being an alderman and not doing absolutely nothing. The man is just there. It's like a dead stone. This area, I'm not doing anything for. It is time for us to wake up and take back what is ours, or stand up for what is ours. At this rate, we're going to be obliterated by our own kind. Black people is going to take the rest of us out. Everyone is hopping up and down because we got black in office. I hate to tell you this, it's gotten worse for us.
And then I looked on the Department of Planning and Development for this city, and they have two umbrella grants. Ones are for small businesses, and they call it Universal Small Grant Application. And the minimum is $250,000. $250. Okay, thousand. I'm so upset, guys. $1,000. And then they have one that's a large grant, a Universal Financial Initiative. This for grants above that $250,000. These grants are still open until the end of December of this year. Why don't we know anything about this?
That is the thing that I'm looking at. You can't blame everything
No,
on one person.
It isn't all his fault.
The system is broke. But as a representative of the people that voted you in, if you decide that you're not going to do anything, there's a lot of things that being Afro-American, we don't know. We try to knock on doors and like April doing, trying to find out things. Could you be polite enough, since you're sending emails about Sears
Right.
to us,
I don't get it.
or Rush up to us, could you tell us where do we go to get help for the senior citizen? The help, do we need to open a store?
Educate us.
Help educate. You are there for a reason. You are our leader.
Right.
We need help. Can you help us? You just don't get rude with people because they don't know.
And you know.
And you have the knowledge, but you refuse to share it with your own people
Because you used it.
to get into office.
Now the thing is,
and to open up this
I suspect,
location.
but I don't know. But I'm thinking, if there's millions that are just sitting there, yeah, and they're going to take that money.
Of course.
They're already large.
Right.
There are other ones as well. Like all of that, okay, the healthcare system. And that's fine and good. Okay, but okay. Now, what I find interesting, before I forget, this has nothing to do with food, but it has to do one of the last interviews that I did with Miss Mary, that had to do with what she saw and what she experienced with another place called Food for Less. It's a Food for Less,
Yeah.
and they have mostly Kroger items, and they also had what they call fuel centers that are very affordable. Okay, it closed. So what I did, once I had, for the guys that listened to it, I can't think of what the number of it is, the episode is, but I'll come back and let you guys know if you haven't already listened to it. Is what I didn't tell Miss Mary is that after the interview was pre-recorded, I did an update when I found out, and I shared it with Miss Mary, is that when I looked them up online, I found out that they gave a list, and it's not many fuel centers that they have throughout Chicago in certain areas, but this particular one that services our area, it said permanently closed. Now the interesting part is that Miss Mary talked to someone else in this neighborhood, and he went and he investigated it. Thank you, Uncle Willie. Okay, and then he found out, this is good news actually, so to counter the bad, what I consider to be not so positive, let me just call that, is that somehow, I don't know who did it, they reopened it. So when he let her know, he went out of his way to go find out, it reopened it, and when I looked online, I saw that they took that away. They didn't say it was permanently closed anymore, and Miss Mary took it even further. She went over there. And what did you see, Miss Mary?
Everyone, the line was out there pumping gas again. They looked like everybody's car was running a little dry because we don't have a lot of gas stations in the area either.
That's another thing.
And
why is that?
I looked there, I said, well, I'm glad I don't need any gas today because I could not get in that line again. And I was floored because I thought my nosy neighbor was wrong, and he wasn't wrong. He said, it is open. I said, no, it's not. I said, they said online it was permanently closed. He said, no, there's cars lined up there getting gas. And I went over there, and it was true.
So I'm curious, somebody, I don't know if it's just the neighborhood itself, I don't know what the story is, but whatever they did, whether it be one person, a group of people,
Or higher up.
So there is power there that needs to be tapped in. Because I'm thinking they're taking away everything.
Exactly.
And you get worried, even though you know the Bible and you know human nature, and you know that this is part of prophecy. It still puts, you're imperfect, and you start to wonder. You say, so now they're going to close this now. They're going to close the Food for Less now. It's just like going through and then you're seeing all these Walmarts closing. You're seeing all these stores shuttering. And you're looking like, oh my God, we're going to be sitting up here
in a food desert.
You're not going to have nothing. They're taking away the gas. So to me, that was something that was positive. So I don't want to make this all about the negative and blaming this one individual, because it doesn't all fall on him either.
No.
Okay. But that was something positive. I am so curious to know, and I'm so happy that somehow, so the answer lies in how they got, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but I don't think I am. How did they reopen? Because they were going to shut that and keep on going, that fuel center. Exactly. We need to tap into that and get it done. And then when I looked on their website, Save a Lot, they had, it's saturated with getting people, even their social media, Instagram, TikTok, they want people to own Save a Lots. It's there. And I think that's very good what Miss Mary just brought up. She says, even if he is not willing, or whatever the deal is with this person, I don't know. he could give somebody the information and give them the tools to take back and learn some things. So there's so much, because I kept thinking last night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I said, well, there's so much stuff that I don't know. How do I make this happen? How can I? And I was talking to Miss Mary, and I had left something on the kitchen table. You can think of anybody else that we could go to help us outside of this individual.
We are not invisible. We are very much in the light. We need some help here because we have been, seem like, deserted.
He knows how to do it. So I'm thinking,
I didn't even really he took the newsletter away from me because
how bizarre.
I was not happy with what the newsletter had. It only tells you about a meeting he has once a month, I want to say, or something like that.
There's other stuff on it.
But it's not in this area either.
Right.
Okay. And car hijacking, COVID-19.
That stuff that's kind of out there a little
bit. About this
other stuff.
Sears Center.
Right.
These was only, and he was giving me figures about the Sears property.
Right.
I could care less. Well, I'm happy that it's being utilized.
Right, that he's doing something.
But I need some help down here below because I would have to get into my SUV and drive all the way up there to find out what's going on. We need stuff within our area. Being a senior citizen, there's quite a few of us still left. We are alive. Does it mean that since we're not paying high taxes from IRS or something else, does that mean that we are forgotten?
I don't know if I said it already, but Uncle Willie, I printed it out, the newsletter, because my mom said, Miss Mary said she didn't get it. So I printed it out, but after I thought, I said, why did I print that out? Okay, so when she was talking to Uncle Willie, she told him about it, and she could detect a change in his demeanor, his voice, his tone. And then at some point, she left it where he could find it. So I felt like, and he felt some type of way about it. Mm-hmm. And she shared that with me because he found it, and then he called her, and he was talking to her about it. He thought it was someone else, who must be in direct contact or constant contact with this particular alderman. Okay, because this individual also put together the block party last summer.
Right.
And this particular alderman and his wife and whatever other, people in his family attended. We did not. Okay. He thought this gentleman had left it for him. But then when Miss Mary pointed out, no, that's not. I left it for you and my daughter, whatever. And he seemed like he felt so, and to an extent I understand, because he's thinking he's probably having some type of contact with him as well. Right. And why did I know about, even if it doesn't serve our area, the Sears, why didn't I know about this?
I don't know, but I could tell that he was very high offended, because he seemed like, when I told him about it, he seemed to think like we were getting preferential treatment for being invited. I kept telling him, no, he didn't send me one, but he sent my daughter one. And I don't see how this here, and he goes on and on and on. So I knew he didn't believe me, because knowing him all these years, I can tell when he's going downhill about something. So I got up the next morning, and the one that April printed out for me, I put a piece of masking tape on and walked down to his garage and taped it up where he comes out. He comes out all day. Mm-hmm. So you can see it, and he was all talking about it. And then, and this gentleman that Tyler Perry hang out with, he definitely, I said, no, that was the one that he sent to April. And I just wanted to verify to you that he did send a newsletter. It was, I don't know why she sent her one, but he sent it. So he was picking people out to send. to send newsletters to,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't get one.
No.
And I think he's still a little perturbed even now.
But he also felt some type of way in regards to when it started out as a joke between me and Miss Mary about the cards that he was sending about with his accolades and stuff on it. He'd even put like a piece of white tape on the thing for February when he was supposedly this particular election for the alderman. And he started to be sighted. They started to physically see him. And then after I didn't put it together right away. I just thought he was being funny. I said, okay, he didn't respond to my emails, but now he's sending me left and right all these things. And then Miss Mary's the one that put it together in regards to him being sighted. And then after seeing him, we'd have all of these things in our mailbox, in our screen door. And then it was like it dawned on me when she said, you see where I'm going? He's physically driving them over here and putting them. Well, why would he go through that effort? So I think Miss Mary might have mentioned it to Uncle Willie, and he felt some type of way about that too.
Sure did.
So I'm like, okay, like, why is all this attention? It's not, to me, the attention means nothing because what I asked, maybe I am very singularly minded. So I'm like, okay, I don't need these pieces of paper with your picture on it with all of these used to work for the police department and how decorated you are and how many years and you were in the service. I could care less. I'm asking you about a grocery store.
What is happening now?
With this, help us, represent us, and you just keep getting in your nice SUV and driving it over here, and it's like 3, 4, 5 of them in there with your picture on it. I know what you look like.
Yeah.
I can't. Can I take that to save a lot and say I'm gonna get like it's mad money and get a stove? No, I can't.
No.
Means nothing. I know exactly what you look like.
Can we get?
Can I get some help? Can I get some help? Help! The heck? All right. Well, thank you, Miss Mary.
You are welcome, April, anytime.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
You are just listening to Teachable Moments with April podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We invite you to stay connected with us on our social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We also encourage you to join the Teachable Moments with April podcast family by becoming a paid subscriber. As always, be well and stay blessed. Until next time.